In 24 months, 4 MIT graduates built a $9 billion AI coding empire, while Microsoft, with 20,000 engineers, watched from the sidelines. They had no marketing team, no sales force, no enterprise contracts, just a forked code editor, a $20 per month subscription, and one contrarian bet about how programmers would actually use AI. On a quiet Thursday in October 2023, in a cramped office in San Francisco's Mission District, Michael Truell hit publish on a tweet that would, within 96 hours, generate more developer signups than Microsoft Copilot had collected in its first 6 months. The tweet was 9 words long. Here is the exact strategy that turned a research project into the fastest-growing developer tool in history, and the moment the entire industry realized they had been building the wrong product. I am Tycoon Decoded. Today, how Anysphere built Cursor into a $9 billion empire in 24 months, and why every major tech giant with infinite resources and existing distribution missed the same opportunity twice. The story of Anysphere starts not with a business plan, but with a frustration. Michael Truell, Swaleh Asif, Arvid Lunemark, and Aman Sanger met at MIT, where they studied computer science and shared a peculiar obsession. They believed coding, as a profession, was on the verge of a fundamental rewrite, not augmentation, not assistance. A full categorical shift in how software gets built. In 2022, they founded Anysphere with funding from the OpenAI Startup Fund. The initial idea was not Cursor. It was a tool for mechanical engineers, an AI assistant for KD software. They were, charitably, not the right team to build it. After a few months, they did what every honest founder eventually does. They admitted they were working on the wrong problem. The pivot came from a simple observation. GitHub Copilot, launched by Microsoft in 2021, had proven developers would pay for AI assistance. But Copilot was a plugin. It lived inside someone else's editor. It was, by design, constrained. The Anysphere team asked a question that sounds obvious in retrospect, and was, in fact, the entire thesis. What if the editor itself was built for AI from the ground up? At the time, this was not an obvious bet. The conventional wisdom was that AI features should be added to existing tools. Microsoft owned VS Code, the most popular editor in the world. Building a competing editor seemed like building a competing search engine, foolish at best, suicidal at worst. But the founders saw something the giants did not. The editor was the leverage point. The interface where the AI met the human was the entire product, and that interface, at every existing tool, was an afterthought. What 4 engineers saw in 2023, that 20,000 engineers at Microsoft missed for 2 years, that is the story. The decision they made next would either work brilliantly or end the company. In early 2023, Anysphere did something that seasoned investors warned them against. They forked Visual Studio Code, the open source version. They took Microsoft's own editor, the one with 70% market share among professional developers, and rebuilt the entire experience around AI. The fork was not a shortcut. It was a strategic statement. They were not asking developers to learn a new tool. They were asking developers to use the tool they already knew, except smarter. The transition cost was, by design, almost zero. The first version of Cursor shipped quietly in March 2023. It was not polished, it was not feature complete, but it had one thing no other editor had. The AI was not a sidebar, it was the cursor itself. You could highlight code and rewrite it with a keyboard shortcut. You could ask questions in line. You could let the AI edit multiple files at once. Early users described the experience using a word that rarely appears in developer reviews: magical. The first 1,000 paying customers came from word of mouth alone. No ads, no conference booths, just developers showing other developers. The price was $20 per month, a number the team picked because it matched Copilot. They could have charged more. They probably should have. But the founders made a deliberate choice. They wanted volume. They wanted the data. Every keystroke, every accepted suggestion, every rejected one was training signal. The product got smarter the more it got used. And it was getting used. By the summer of 2023, Cursor had quietly crossed $1 million in annualized revenue, with no marketing budget and a team of 6 people. The unit economics were, in a phrase rarely heard in venture capital, embarrassingly good. Andreessen Horowitz noticed. So did Thrive Capital. So did half of Silicon Valley. The early funding rounds were not pitched. They were offered. The founders had the unusual experience of choosing investors rather than chasing them. So how did a 6-person team out-execute Microsoft on Microsoft's own platform? The answer is one of the most counterintuitive lessons in modern software. By the fall of 2023, Cursor was growing at a rate that broke every benchmark in developer tools history. Monthly recurring revenue was doubling every 8 weeks. The team was still under 15 people. And then came the moment that changed everything. In October 2023, Andrej Karpathy, one of the most influential AI researchers in the world, posted a short message on Twitter. He had switched to Cursor. He was not paid to say it. He was not an advisor. He just preferred it. Within 24 hours, Cursor's sign-up page received more traffic than the entire previous month. Within a week, the user base doubled. The endorsement was, in venture capital terms, a category-defining moment. Suddenly, every AI researcher, every founder, every senior engineer at every major tech company was trying Cursor. The product spread through the most prestigious engineering teams in the world like a controlled experiment that had escaped containment. The Series A came in 2024 at a valuation of $400 million. 8 months later, the Series B closed at $2.5 billion. 8 months after that, the company raised at $9 billion. The growth curve was, in the dry language of investor decks, not normal. The reason it worked is worth pausing on. Anysphere did not try to compete with Microsoft on features. They competed on focus. Microsoft's Copilot was one product among hundreds at a $3 trillion company. At Anysphere, Cursor was the only thing. Every engineer in the building woke up thinking about one problem. Every product decision served one customer. Every dollar of revenue funded one bet. The strategic clarity was, frankly, unfair. Microsoft had distribution. Anysphere had obsession. By mid-2024, Cursor was being used inside Microsoft itself. Engineers at the company that built VS Code were using a fork of VS Code that another company had made better. This was the kind of competitive humiliation that usually triggers an acquisition offer. The offer reportedly came. The founders said no. And what did the giants do while a 60-person company ate their lunch? The competitive response was, predictably, slow. By 2025, Cursor had crossed $100 million in annualized revenue, then $200 million, then $300. The team grew, but slowly. The founders had watched too many startups die from premature scaling. They hired engineers, not managers. They hired builders, not optimizers. The headcount stayed remarkably small for the revenue produced. Per-employee revenue at Anysphere reached numbers that put even Stripe and Figma in the shade. The product evolved aggressively. Cursor added agent modes that could complete entire tasks autonomously. It added composer features that could refactor across an entire code base. It integrated every major frontier model, from Claude to GPT, to its own internal systems. The strategic message to developers was simple. You do not need to pick a model. We will pick for you. The competitive moat deepened in a way most observers underestimated. The data flywheel kept accelerating. Every Cursor user generated training signal that made the next version smarter. The product was learning faster than any competitor could ship features. Microsoft updated Copilot. Google launched its own AI editor. Relied pivoted aggressively. Cursor just kept growing. The $9 billion valuation in 2025 was the headline number, but the more interesting metric was retention. Cursor users did not churn. Once a developer integrated Cursor into their workflow, the switching cost was no longer the editor. It was the productivity loss of going back. The product had crossed from useful to essential, the rarest transition in software. By late 2025, Cursor counted among its customers engineers at OpenAI, Stripe, Shopify, and yes, Microsoft. The enterprise tier launched without a traditional sales team. Companies inbounded. The sign-up form did the selling. The strategic question facing Anysphere now is not survival. It is what comes next. The founders have hinted at a broader vision. Cursor is not the destination. It is the wedge. The real ambition is to build the development environment for an era where most code is written by AI and reviewed by humans. The editor is the entry point. The platform is the prize. If they execute, the $9 billion valuation will, in retrospect, look conservative. Here is what most people miss about Anysphere. The story is usually told as a tale of timing. The right team, the right technology, the right moment. That framing is comfortable and almost entirely wrong. Why did Microsoft, with every structural advantage, lose to 4 people in a Mission District office? Because incumbents optimize for what exists. Challengers optimize for what is becoming. Cursor was not a better Copilot. It was a different category. The hidden insight is that the founders treated the editor not as a product, but as a thesis about the future of work.
We did it.
They believed AI
everyone.
would become the primary interface for software creation.
Just the beginning.
If that was true, every existing editor was a legacy product, including the one they forked. The fork was not a competitive move. It was a transitional bridge. The founders knew users would not adopt a new editor cold, so they built one that felt like the old one and quietly replaced everything underneath. The strategy worked because it respected the user's existing knowledge while delivering an experience that could not exist in the old paradigm. The second hidden lesson is patience with headcount. Most venture-backed companies, given Anysphere's revenue trajectory, would have hired 500 people by year 2. The Anysphere founders stayed small on purpose. They understood that organizational complexity, not technical difficulty, kills most fast-growing startups. By keeping the team intentionally undersized, they preserved the ability to ship quickly and pivot strategically. Speed was their moat. Scale was a future problem. 3 lessons for builders. First, the interface is the product. In any technology shift, the company that owns the user interface owns the value capture. Anysphere did not build a better AI model. They built a better way to use AI models. That difference is worth billions. Second, forks beat from scratch. When entering a market with deep user habits, do not ask users to learn something new. Give them what they already know with something better hidden inside. The transition cost is everything. Third, stay small longer than feels comfortable. Headcount is the silent killer of execution speed. Anysphere proved that the right 20 people will outship the wrong 200 every single time. Optimize for talent density, not talent volume. Next time on Tycoon Decoded, how Perplexity built a $14 billion search empire in 30 months while Google watched its monopoly crack. Subscribe so you do not miss it. The next case study drops next week, and the strategic lessons will change how you think about competing against giants.